The night is dark, it's late, really late, and our hero has decided once again to code in his office on yet another side project. Yes, at last, it's going to work this time. I hope. Let's try. Oh yeah, 5 minutes later. Four hours later. Suddenly, the door opens. Suddenly, the door opens. What the hell are you doing? It's his wife. You're still working at 2 a.m.? You woke me up with your bloody music. Wait, honey, wait. It's not what you think. It's not work. It's actually a funny story. So it all started with a simple question. Can I make two devices, two laptops? Oh, by the way, I borrowed your laptop. Can I make two laptops communicate with each other only using ultrasound? Yeah. And so I got a bit carried away and I created a musical instrument with my Super NES remote, and it's pretty nice. I don't care. If you really wanted to use ultrasound, I would still be sleeping, right? Why are you doing this? I really don't get the point. What's the purpose? Welcome everyone. My name is Hubert Sablonnière. I'm a web developer, and today I'd like to talk about side projects, and I'd like to tell you about one side project I worked on last year. So whether if it's with my wife or with my muggle friends, you know, the non-IT persons, I always have a hard time explaining the concept of a side project. I'm always trying to say, well, you know, it's kind of a pleasure, and actually, well, first I have a hard time explaining what I do for a living. I'm like, okay, I build websites, trying to avoid the, you know, printer on Windows installation. But most of the time people are like, yeah, he's the IT guy, so it's a bit hard. Should remember you some Christmas memories, maybe? So when I tell my friends I spend like 4 hours this weekend trying to create a musical instrument with a very nerdy device, I don't always get, wow, man, it's awesome. You really know how to spend your free time. Really nice. No, most of the time I get, you're such a nerd. What's the point of this crap? So this kind of reaction really drives me crazy. I mean, I really get the impression that we live in a world where everyone is trying to organize his personal life just like his professional life. And like everyone is trying to maximize the return on investment of the travel we are doing or when we are enjoying our hobbies. And I understand the idea. I'm also trying to maximize what I'm doing on my free time, but I think there's a limit. And I think we've come to a point where we really want everything to be useful, and I really don't like that. The other reaction I often have is people think I'm a workaholic. Well, yes, I sometimes sent work email and coded a few stuff for clients on my free time, but most of the time when I'm working on a side project, it's completely different. There's like daytime Hubert, you know, on one side, working for clients, solving problems, building software. And when I do that, I have the three famous constraints, you know, being cheap, being fast, being good, and trying to explain to the clients that they can't get the three of them, they only get to get two. But, and on the other side, there's nightlife Hubert, weekend Hubert, and on those periods, I don't have any constraints, or at least I'm setting my own rules. And that's why I think side projects are awesome. So I want to talk about all the other reasons why side projects are awesome, and in the end we may tickle a bit on why sometimes it's not that great. So for that I'll share my ultrasonic adventure with you. And it all started with a side project a year ago when we were with my ex-colleague at Devoxx. So imagine yourself in November last year, we were discussing, having fun, and then we got a bit more serious. And back then we were working on a tooling for presentation trainings just to control a set of slide deck. So basically it looks like this, the tool we were working on, but in better, right? Because PowerPoint speaker mode is really nice, but the next slide is really small. The notes are like, if I want to move while I'm speaking, I just can't read what's written. On Keynote you have the same kind of thing, but you have the Apple way, so every font is thin. It looks cool, but it's unreadable from there. The notes are so small I can't read them. So what we are proposing is more something like this. So on the right side I have the current slide and the next slide, and on the right I have some kind of teleprompter. So I have the notes, but not only the notes for the current slide, but the whole speech. And it's really nice when you want to create some effects when going from one slide to another. So we also added a few timers, etc. So how does this work? It's basically a web app that you open on your laptop. It's the presenter view. And on the second, you set up your laptop in extended desktop mode. So the second screen is basically what's projected here. And on this, I have a second browser window that only displays the slides. So everything is connected, and everything is receiving events from my remote. So each time I'm pressing slide next, it's sending events to the browser window here and the browser window here. Okay, so that's pretty nice, and I've been using that for a few years. It's the same with the Reveal.js speaker mode, etc. But the problem is, if I want to do demos, just like we all love to see at Devoxx, I have to struggle with this, driving this guy crazy, or at least the guy that are upstairs crazy. Wow, everything is blinking, it's not full HD anymore, and I have like 200 people waiting for me to make sense of that kind of UI. So it's really a problem when you want to do demos and still have a presenter view. So what we thought about was to keep the setup, but forget about the extended desktop mode. Instead, we're going to set up the classic mirroring mode, where what I see here is exactly what I see there. But having that, I don't have my presenter view anymore. So I still have my remote sending only events here, but now I have a second machine. So my wife's machine. Sorry. So this is the machine you see here, and basically it has the speaker view details on it, and on this one I have the slides. Now I just need a way to make the events, because this remote is in Bluetooth with this machine, but now I need to send events from this machine to this machine. So it's easy, right? I have Wi-Fi or something, but I still need a way to transmit it between two web pages. So daytime Hubert was like, okay, let's do WebSocket. I already used it. I know a few libraries. It works well, no surprises. It's okay. So putting WebSocket between the two machines would mean that I need a client on each machine, but I would need a server right in between. So I was a bit disappointed by that, or at least daytime Hubert was disappointed by that. And that's where I think in side projects you have time to make some discoverings. So that's why they are awesome. And I was thinking about stuff I saw in a few conference talks at Devoxx and other conferences. I remember hearing about WebRTC, and I was like, I think WebRTC can help me removing the server part and make two web pages communicate with each other without any server in between, just like that. So I looked into WebRTC. Anyone knows about WebRTC? Okay, so if you know everything about it, you can fall asleep. There will be sound afterwards to wake you up. It's not a talk about WebRTC, obviously, but I just want to share a bit how it works and a few basics. So for those who don't know, WebRTC has often been labeled as the Skype for the browser. It's web technologies that enable you to do audio-video chat with just HTML and web standards without any plugin, etc. If you want a good example, it's Talkie. I'm using it for all my conferences with my ex-colleagues, and it works really well. So you have every details you need on the specifications at the WebRTC, about the API in the browsers, etc. And you have all the protocol definitions at the IETF. So basically, WebRTC is known for audio-video, but you can also transfer any arbitrary data, and that's what really interested me. Like, you know technology, everyone is using it for X, but I want to use it for Y, right? So I stumbled upon something called WebTorrent, which is exactly using the sharing arbitrary data between web pages. So if you go to that page, you can see a movie. So it's a Creative Commons movie, obviously. And actually, the bits of the movie are loaded from many other people that also open the page. So just like any torrent download, but directly in your web page without any plugins. So I think it's a great opportunity to open up new ideas on the web to decentralize it a bit. So I was interested in the same technology to transfer arbitrary data between him and him, so I could do slide next. So let's take a small example for WebRTC. So we have John and Janice, because why not? They are on the same local network, and they both have local IP address. Okay, so what I need to do now to initiate a direct connection between the two machines is for John to create what we call an offer. Okay? And so it's basically a way for John to say, okay, we are going to do audio video and a few details about the connection we want to set up. And then Janice needs to send back an offer. So we have to do a round trip between the two machines. And on top of that, because John needs to say to Janice, hey, my IP is this, I can talk in IPv4, IPv6, UDP, TCP, etc. John will send what we call ICE candidates. So it's a candidate is a route where which Janice can contact John. So an IP, a port, TCP, UDP, etc. Obviously, Janice needs to do the same. So she's sending back a few ICE candidates. And once the round trip has been done, we'll be able to set up a connection. So in an offer and in an answer, you have this. You have to send all those data. So you have fingerprints, IP stuff, and ICE candidates contain this. So again, you can see an IP, UDP somewhere, etc., and a port. So to transmit this from there to there one time and then the other way, I would be able then to establish a direct connection. But so I'll do a small demo, sorry. So here we're gonna pretend there's two machines here. On the right it's Chrome for John, and on the left, sorry, and on the right it's Firefox for Janice. So the small demo I built to really get into the low-level APIs was just to create a connection so I could send events. So when I create the offer, I'm just serializing the big stuff I was showing you with the SDP and the candidates. So I'm sending them to Janice. She reads the offer and creates an answer. And then I'm sending it back to John, which reads the answer and look at the console. Okay, now the connection is open between the two browsers. So pretend it's on different machines. And now we have a direct connection, so I can click on previous slide many times, and I'm sending events to the other browser, which is logging them. Same the opposite way. So that's exactly what I was trying to do. The problem is, in real life, you can't really send stuff with copy pasting, right? So we have to find a way to send the information, the offer, and the ICE candidates from John to Janice. And for this, the WebRTC protocol talks about signaling, the process of signaling. So signaling is just sending those information from one machine to another machine. So basically, you have a signaling server that is also on the same local network, and okay. So that's the moment where my own side project is failing me during my talk, but it should be okay. I'll try just to refresh. Sorry. So yeah, you have to send information from John to Janice through a signaling server, and for this, what many people do is to create a WebSocket connection between the two parts with the signaling server and sending the information from one point and then the other way. So just trying to do live fixing at the same time. It's gonna be all right, sorry. No. And I'll try to do it blind for now. So once you've done the round trip, you can establish a WebRTC data channel connection where you can send direct information between the two machines. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. So then I got a bit more interested in how could I do this with the internet in between. So maybe this machine is on a Wi-Fi, and maybe this one is on 4G or something. So I got into the details and I really understood how it works, but so it involves having still a signaling server, but then to cross the NAT servers, you'll need some kind of stun server. Okay, so you have to do stuff like who am I, and then it tells you, well, on the internet you are this IP, this port, etc. You have to do the same thing on the other way, and it got a bit boring. Or at least I was really interested for my side project at the basics. So yeah, so I think that's where I got bored, but I learned just enough I needed to do that. So I think that's why side projects are really awesome. And now I really need to fix what's happening somewhere. I'm really sorry. Let's try again. I lost the Wi-Fi. Maybe it should work now. No, maybe this one lost the Wi-Fi. Worst nightmare ever. Okay. The Wi-Fi is deactivated. This is not good. I think I pressed a shortcut, which I shouldn't have. Okay. Let's all cross fingers. Yeah, 200 crossing fingers. Should be okay. No, almost. Sorry. One more time. Don't build your own tools, or at least don't put them into production. Yeah. This is not going well. I hate that. I can't see anything on my laptop. Okay, so when you have that in a big conference, you have to sing. So, do you have a song in mind? Okay. I really hate that. something is oh, okay, this is new. Sorry. If you're going to San Francisco, I hate that. Be sure to wear some flowers in your head. If you're going, oh, it is working. So I have nothing on my machine, but I have this, so it should be okay. Okay, so let me get back to you up to speed. Side projects are awesome because they allow you to learn. Deep breath. So WebRTC, I learned a lot, but I got bored after learning just enough for my side project. So if you want to use it, I really advise you to use WebRTC adapter. It's a small library, or at least a set of JavaScript that helps you for your WebRTC project to work everywhere the same way, most of, kind of. And if you want to do data transferring like I did, I advise you to use SimplePeer, because I really wanted to learn the low-level APIs, but it's really, really low-level and you have lots of boilerplate. So with SimplePeer, you'll be able to send any arbitrary data between the two browsers. So where does it work? Basically, it works almost everywhere, and I think this website is not up to date because Safari just announced WebRTC support in version 11 of iOS and Safari, but I haven't tried it yet officially, but they say it's supported. The problem is in Safari and Edge, the data channel feature is not working yet. So you'll be able to do video, audio chatting between two web pages, but for now you won't be able to send arbitrary data. So I was looking to do a serverless communication between two machines. And, well, there's a server, so is it serverless? Well, if I read the definition of serverless, there is a server, so okay. But what I really wanted is serverless, you know what I mean? Like, I really want no server in this. So I want to send from this machine, which has a black screen, but anyway, to this machine, this amount of data and those small eyes candidates. And that's when I was like, hey, side projects are awesome because I'm able to experiment. I have the free time, I can do whatever I want, I don't have to be cheap, fast, good. So I started experimenting and I started reading on the web, how could I do the signaling without any server? Then I stumbled upon an RFC, which is RFC 2549. If you look at the date, it's from April 1st, so yeah, IP over avian carriers. It has a Wikipedia article. So if you watch Game of Thrones, you have faith into sending information with pigeons and raven, right? It's like so fast. Anyway, in our case, it won't work. So I continue doing a bit of research. I stumbled upon this article, and this guy has done a project on GitHub that goes with it, which was interesting. Then I found this project. Okay, QR codes, I'm interested, or not. So the idea is the laptop is displaying multiple QR codes because there are lots of information to send. And then you have like a smartphone, with the camera you read the QR codes, and then the smartphone is showing the QR codes back. Can you see me with the two laptops? Like, okay, I'm doing the synchronization, it's gonna be, right? Okay, yeah, QR codes, right? So I continued my research, and I remembered about the Chromecast. Anyone owns a Chromecast? Yeah, right. So like 2 years ago, I heard that for the guest mode, so if you want a friend at your home to control your music, which you don't often want to, but you have the guest mode with the, you know, the 4 characters displayed on the screen that he can enter. And there's some communication between smartphones and the TV, sometimes, it's not really precise, being with ultrasound. And then I was like, wait a minute, it's interesting. So I continue researching on GitHub, and I stumbled upon this article, this project, sorry, the audio network, and another project called SonicNet. But again, it was all projects based on low-level web APIs. And what I wanted is to learn about those low-level APIs by myself. So I got interested into web audio. And so web audio is a set of API that will help you to do many kinds of things with sounds. So the first thing I wanted to do is to produce sound. And that's where side projects are awesome, because you can have fun and you can create musical instruments. So how does web audio works? Basically, you have nodes. So the first one is the audio destination node. It's like your speakers. And then you can have a node that is called an oscillator. You can set a frequency. So for musicians here, 440 is a perfect A, A3, A4, depends on MIDI or anyway. So here I can do or something like that. I can change the frequency to whatever I want, and I can add new nodes and process the frequency. For my musical instrument, I just needed a gain node, which allowed me to change the volume, right? So I can go from 80% to 2% or even silent. And so right now, my sound is off, because now I know what's not happening on my screen. Okay, anyway, I'll tell you about afterwards. My sound is off because the web page with the musical instrument is still open. So if I put the sound on, I get the still sound. Because if I change on this page here, so my musical instrument is just creating an oscillator here, setting it as a sine wave, and setting a basic frequency, and putting the gain at 0. And each time I press a button, I just set the frequency at the right note, and I just put the level up on the note. And when I release the button, I just have to put the gain at 0. So right now, in my web browser, something is oscillating. Isn't it crazy, right? Okay. So that allowed me, you saw the demo, to do that. So now I was able to, to produce sounds. And so I just used the Wikipedia page to know the frequencies. And obviously I chose the right notes to play whatever I wanted to demo, but anyway. The second step was to do detection sounds, because if I want to produce sound here and detect it there, I need to know what frequencies were emitted. So again, research, Wikipedia, etc. I stumbled upon DTMF. Do you know about DTMF? Yeah. So it's the standard that defines the frequency that you can hear when you press telephone key buttons. And so if you look at the data grid on the left, you have the 2 frequencies. It's because dual tone multi-frequency. You have the 2 frequencies that correspond to any given number on the keypad of a phone. So that's when I really try to do the detection. So for the detection, you have, again, a node, which is basically your mic. And you have a node which is an analyzer. So the analyzer node is getting the input, and with that you're able to get basically the repartition of the different frequencies and are they really high or not. So you get a 1024 value array, which correspond to the frequencies between 0 and 20 kHz, etc. It's getting a bit technical and boring, but basically you see what I mean. You get the information as an array, and you just have to process it to know which frequencies are up right now. So that's what I did here. Yeah. Okay. And so we'll try the demo with my phone. So what I did is trying to detect, as you can see on the left, the code. I created an analyzer, etc. And in a loop, I'm trying to get the frequency data, etc. So now if I try the demo, so if I press any, yeah, of course, I just put the sound back up, sorry. Yeah, it's okay. So let's press a few numbers, so maybe 8. Oh, nice, 6. So it's the telephone number of Emmanuel Macron, please write it down. Okay, so I was pretty glad the first time I managed to do that. The problem is it doesn't really work well, and that's where you realize side projects, right? It's a professional job, so yeah. So with web audio, you're able to produce and detect sound. You have a few sets of APIs that work pretty much everywhere, and I include Edge and Opera and Safari. The problem is more about getting sound. So for that, you need the API called getUserMedia to get video, but especially to get the microphone. And for this, I haven't tried it yet on Safari, but officially it says that it supports it starting on iOS 11. So I was able to produce sound, to detect sound, and again, what I wanted to do is just transfer a few amounts of data from here to here to then create a direct connection from WebRTC. I know the level of craziness is like that high, but it was really lots of fun. So the last part was, now that I can do multiple frequencies, I need to encode that big message and to send it. And so I have a degree in electronics, signal encoding, and computer science. And basically, when I had the chance to really choose my courses, I just forgot about electronics and signal encoding. So I really focused on computer science. Back then, it was not really that interesting for me, but because it was my own rules, my own small garden, my side project, that at that moment, I was really interested in signal encoding. Maybe I need to send an email to my old professor saying, hey, I got it now. Okay, so, and when I say I got it, I'm like at the level of the first lesson, maybe. So if I want to send hello, for example, from Jones to Janice, what I did is to set up a dictionary and to decompose the different characters I want to send. So here I want to send HELLO, and my dictionary is the 4 letters EHLO. So then I have just to map every character to its index in the dictionary, pretty simple. And then I make each character, each index correspond to a frequency. So I'll be able to know an H is like, E is like, you know what I mean. But to be able to send it properly, what I saw on the few GitHub projects I discovered was you need a frequency to tell the receiver that you're about to start a message, to identify the start. You need also frequency for repetitions, because when you are doing frequency modulation like that and you're sending 2 L's, it's not that always easy to detect that the L, or the frequency 2, was sent like twice the time. So most of the time we have a frequency just to say, hey, there was a repetition here. And then of course you need a frequency to say the message has ended. So you send it everything to Janice's laptop, and she can do the opposite operation with the same dictionary, of course, and say, oh, okay, John told me hello. Nice. So that's rather cool, or not, because I have to send this again. And that is just the offer. the answer just look like this, so I have to do the round trip, and I also have to send one or more ICE candidates. So I think that is like 300 ASCII characters, and here if you put like 2 candidates, it's like 200 something. So the first time I did the transferring between the 2 machines without any optimization, the round trip was like 10 minutes. And I think it's the time that Raven needs to go from King's Landing to the wall. I mean, it's crazy. So that's when side projects are awesome, because there's a challenge, right? And I was like, I think I can do better. So I looked at many Google research, as always, and I found something about the minimum viable SDP. So if I weren't really clear, the SDP is the big object I'm supposed to send for the offer and back for the answer. And this page was basically the pimp my ride of SDP. Like, we don't need that. So the person is describing everything you can remove from that object. Removing, when you have key and values, you can remove the key because it will always be like name Hubert, first name Sablonnière, etc. Maybe you just have to send the value in the right order, and you can really win some space with that. So that's what I tried. And I also tried to another optimization. It's to change the number of frequencies I'm using. In the example I showed you, I was using as many frequencies as I had letters in my dictionary, plus 3 frequencies: stop, repetition, and start. But what if I were to encode those 1, 0, 2, 2, 3 into binary and change the base to use more frequencies? So that's where the boring math starts. So if I have this, I can use base 4 to create a number. So trust me, it's 929. And then when you have 929, you can say, okay, I have like 29 frequencies, so maybe I can change the base and decompose that. And the message to be sent now is only 1, 3, and 1. Okay, you won like 2 characters. No, I went from 100% to 60%, so it's like a big win. And so then I just have those 3 frequencies to send, etc. So maybe we can do a demo that will probably fail again, right? It's a demo. So let me refresh and zoom a bit. So here, putting the sound, here we are trying to send hello, or maybe hell, from left to right with a EHLO dictionary. Okay, this is not going to go well. Okay. Okay, let's try something different. Okay, oh, a bit creative, yeah? Anyway, so as you can see, I'm using the same number of frequencies as I have characters in my dictionary. So 2, 3, 2, or maybe not. No, it's, sorry. So what I also tried is, as I said, to decompose what's in the SDP. So there are IP addresses, fingerprints that are only hexadecimal, etc. So I started to create a few sets of dictionaries that are more efficient. So one for ASCII, one for what I called small ASCII, which is like only numbers and lowercase letters, maybe, I don't remember, and a few special characters, only for numbers, and especially for IPv4. If you look at the console, sorry, if you look at the console, if I'm trying to send an IPv4, for example, whatever, yeah, like in the movies, okay, no, in the movies it's like lower. That way. No, maybe it won't work because my dictionary isn't, anyway. Okay, So if I try to send it as ASCII, I'm gonna cut the sound because it's horrible, but it will take like 12 seconds to send, and I have to send all those frequencies. But if I know it's an IPv4, I can just encode that as 4 numbers that go from 0 to 255. So I will just have to send that much information, and it will be only 4 seconds. So by removing stuff from the SDP, by putting a really specific dictionary for each part, and by changing base, I was able to transfer stuff. So for now, you're all hearing what I'm doing, because I'm between 700 Hertz and 1.5K Hertz. So who's under 24 years old here? Okay, you may hear one of the ultrasound, sorry, but for us it's like too late. So I'm gonna go between, it sounds crazy, but it seems like a fact I read. So we are going between 17.5K and 20.5K, and basically it's above 18, it's officially around ultrasounds, but ultrasounds go really over that. The problem is my laptop mic and speakers weren't built for that at all. I even got making it like clicking when I was trying to do very high frequency, and the Web Audio API doesn't allow you to go above 22K as I showed, so we are pretty limited. So we'll try 29 frequencies to encode, and at sounds we shouldn't be able to hear. So that's when the problem will begin, because we are relying on the speakers of the Kinepolis. So yeah. So let's try to send. Okay. Same dictionary. 200 people crossing fingers, yeah? Okay. If you don't see listen on, it's that it doesn't work, so I'll try again and I'll remove the jack if it doesn't work. I didn't, so you just won something that I can offer you afterwards, but thanks very much. Stressed. If you're going. It's already listening. It's not the right dictionary. Okay, that was almost that, right? If you look at the numbers, yeah, we're missing 8 and 19. Okay, let's do that again. I heard one frequency. You too, right? Okay. Hey. Okay. Okay. And if you look at the numbers, we are not missing that much, so I'm just gonna try by removing the jack. Maybe, yeah, it's gonna be big sounds. Okay, no problem. Okay. So let's try again with my speakers. Okay, crossing fingers. Demo gods, please. Hey, great. Thanks very much. At Devoxx UK at the end, the AV guy was like, oh, by the way, in your mic, there's like ultrasound going to the bass, and maybe it's for that it didn't work. And I was like, what? Okay. What's nice with that is that once I managed to optimize everything, I managed to do the round trip in 1 minute. And for me, it was like the main goal. And after that, I got a bit bored and I played video games and went to see some friends, you know. And that's what I really like with side projects, is that if it's not finished, it's okay. And I'm gonna repeat it because we all have a big problem in this industry. If it's not finished, it's your free time, there's no one paying you to do that, it's okay. And the problem I have is this. We all put on ourselves this pressure to have this amazing list of side projects that are awesome because the recruiters are asking for that. And I can't blame them at some point, because if I were to recruit someone, I would like him to or her to do like crazy side projects that are really interesting and smart. But basically, we just have to lower the pressure and to just say, okay, man or woman, it's okay. It's okay. So last point, if you don't have docs or tests, it's okay, sort of. Again, I'm still talking about side projects that you just do to have fun, to learn, etc. If you're building the new plugin library for something that everyone will use, we're not talking about that kind of side projects. But again, don't put too much pressure on you. And to finish, obviously, the last part is sharing. I mean, I worked on this a year ago. I presented it at a few conferences, and this allowed me to infect people with this really good virus of wanting to learn more about WebRTC and web audio, and maybe signal encoding. Yeah, good. So I really urge you to try stuff, to lower the pressure, to really feel free to do whatever you want, and in the end share with the people that are not as passionate as you, or that for really good reasons, families, other hobbies, don't have the time. I mean, it's really not a problem if you don't have the time. So I want to finish and get back to the usefulness of our free time by sharing you about a Japanese concept. So the idea is to identify what you love, what you can be paid for, and what you are good at. And if you identify those three things, you have your passion and your profession. And that's really a good way for I think, to describe the job versus work, and the fact that there's a common space. I prefer this description. There's what I love, what I can be paid for, what I'm good at, and the Japanese add what the world needs. Wow, that's deep. And when you have that, you can have your mission and your vocation. Okay, and they call this Ikigai. And I haven't found it yet, maybe you have, but since I discovered that, I really started to think more about the usefulness of what I do in my daytime Uber, daytime life, what I'm being paid for, and a bit less about the usefulness of what I'm doing on my free time. So, this was not a story about waking up your partner, husband or wife. They would totally be right to be mad at you. But when I think back about the question of what's the point? Well, I mean, why do I do that? What's the purpose? Well, in less than 2 to 3 weeks, something like that, I discovered new technologies like WebRTC, web audio. I learned stuff about networks, NATs. I experimented with ultrasounds, with music, trying to find what notes frequencies are. I had a lot of fun challenging myself to do that. And I would say that for a useless project, it's not that bad. Thank you very much. I don't have time for questions, but don't hesitate to ping me, to buzz me until tomorrow evening.